I want to ask you something since this was, and I saw you talking about this on Twitter. Even I was kind of heated about this, and a lot of people are. Going back to the Razzies right now with Mother.
Oh, boy.
Were you shocked that it wasn't nominated for at least Achievement in Directing for Darren Aronofsky?
In regards to Mother, because if you haven't heard the news this weekend, no more. They talk about how irrelevant the Oscars have become. No, there's no award, quote unquote, show that has become more irrelevant than the Golden Raspberry Awards. Number one, I pay less and less attention to it every year. I couldn't even tell you what the worst picture was last year for that thing. But anyway, they came out and they nominated both Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem for worst performers in Mother. And let me say this. Let me say this before I answer your question about me being surprised Mother didn't get anything. First off, I know of nobody, not even critics who disliked Mother, that thought Jennifer Lawrence or Javier Bardem gave even remotely one of the worst performances of the year.
God, no.
Even the people that hated Mother, I don't think would say Lawrence, or they hated it because Lawrence and Bardem weren't good. Number one. Number two, as far as it not getting anything, I'm not surprised it didn't. I think if it would have gotten anything, it would have maybe gotten sound. It would have gotten sound editing and mixing because there's a lot of jarring ambient noises in it. Kevin, did you see Mother?
I did not.
Oh, my God.
That was what, it was funny when Joe first came out. We talked about it the first week on his first show, and we talked about Mother the following week. So it was very
jump from it to Mother. It was like, wow, okay.
We got to learn a lot about one another in those that 2 week time frame. But yeah, and again, I didn't think Mother was a perfect movie. I didn't think Mother was an amazing film, but it was definitely better than I think a lot of people gave it credit for. I think I think it was a movie that was impossible to market, and not like Proud Mary, in my opinion, which was, I think, cruelly mismarketed. I think Mother was a genuinely difficult movie to market.
I mean, I would say it got mismarketed because I thought that they were marketing it like it was going to be a horror film, and it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, there was horror elements in it, but it was definitely not a straightforward horror film.
But yeah, I was just wondering on that because of the Razzies, because after seeing Jennifer Lawrence get nominated, I'm like, this is no.
I hear you. Yeah, I figure I'm not surprised it didn't get anything.
Another one real quick. This is Dom's favorite film from last year, Battle of the Sexes.
Nothing. It's got as many Oscar
right?
It's got as many. Battle of the Sexes has as many Oscar nominations as I have. Nothing. As we have collectively. But yeah, that's definitely disappointing. That's another thing too, where it's like every year, of course, you get movies that like you think might sneak in there and get Oscar nominations, or you think might be big favorites. I think a big part, and people might disagree with this, but I think a big part, or at least a factor in play for Oscar nominations, is at least a movie has to kind of sort of catch on in a way with audiences. And Battle of the Sexes went off like a wet firework, and people seeing it. Nobody saw it. I mean, it was very surprising for the fact that it had Steve Carell and Emma Stone. Nobody saw it. It was a good film. It was a very good film. I thought it was well written, well directed, well acted, really. But it was another one of those movies too that just kind of slips out. And then especially when you have immense hype surrounding Get Out, Lady Bird, and Shape of Water, and Billboards, I think those once you get the performances out of those, it just kind of stomps on smaller stuff like that.
You know what movie I just realized in the animated category that didn't get nominated? Cars 3.
I put that on my list, my notes right here. I said Cars 3 ? Yeah, best animated feature film. Good Lord, could they just say they want to give it to Coco and be done with it? Like you got
the only two films I really see there that could win is The Breadwinner and Coco.
Yeah, I would argue Loving Vincent
and Loving
Coco.
Vincent. Yeah.
I would argue Loving Vincent, even though I haven't seen it.
When I saw Boss Baby, because it's the first one that was written down on the website I was looking on too, I'm like, this is joking, right? Like this got nominated, and then Ferdinand came up right after. I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, first off, this was not a banner year for animated films. A lot of which were like decent to mediocre to average. I mean, like you had Rock Dog in February was one of the animated films which nobody saw. You had My Little Pony, the movie, which never had a snowball's chance in hell of getting nominated.
I would have loved to see that get nominated.
I would honestly. Here's the thing for. Let me say this about the Boss Baby being nominated, okay? Because every year there's always that one movie that everybody hated or like everybody is surprised it got nominated. The year before, last year it was Suicide Squad, which won. The previous year it was bad, or at least I think 2 years prior it was Bad Grandpa. Jackass, Bad Grandpa, which was awesome, but. The Boss Baby, here's the thing that I said about my review of The Boss Baby. I don't know if either of you saw it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't think it was amazing. You know what it reminded me of? It was, first off, it reminded me of a very cartoon. It reminded me of a cartoon, which is, you know, animation kind of boils down to in a very, you know, broad sense. But it's cartoony, which I don't think we get a lot. It reminded me a lot in spirit and in imagination of like a Fairly Odd Parents episode. And that's not faint praise, in my opinion. It really isn't. I love the Fairly Odd Parents. I think it's an embodiment of animation in terms of what you can do with it. I didn't loathe the Boss Baby like a lot of people did. Do I think it's Oscar material? No. Do I think that Captain Underpants should have been nominated? Absolutely.
Yeah.
That should have been nominated instead of Boss Baby. You know, that's what I think is one of the worst snubs this year is Captain Underpants.
You know, you even saying, like, at first you said, like, oh, this year animation was kind of like mediocre to like good. It wasn't really that big of a year for animation. And then you just say stuff like Captain Underpants is like, well, there's another one that probably should have got nominated in front of Boss Baby and Ferdinand.
But I would say outside of Captain Underpants, Coco and the Lego Batman movie, that's about there. Cars 3's average. You know what I mean? Cars 3's fine. Like
it's just Pixar. I was like,